Hello, everybody. It's Connie Stewart with SimplySimpleStamping.com. I am very excited to share some really great masculine cards. Masculine cards are one of those things I think a lot of us struggle with, and I'm going to share with you how I let designer series paper, some gorgeous double-sided paper, help me create some fabulous masculine cards. That's right. It was the designer series paper that prompted me to make these 4 easy DIY masculine cards. So easy to do. And I only had to use one stamp set and one punch to create all 4 of these. You're going to want to stay tuned to all 4 cards because I have a few little tips and tricks up my sleeve you're going to want to be a part of. So today's cards are going to wow you because we're going to create some masculine cards. And I know if you're anything like me, those masculine cards are the tough ones. We're going to let designer series paper do a lot of the work for us because Stampin' Up! Has some incredible designer series paper that's perfect for the guys. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to start with this wonderful birthday card with a nice nature theme. I've got a piece of Mary Merlot cardstock, 4¼ by 5½. My designer series paper is from the Beauty of the Earth. So pretty, right? This is cut 4 inches by 10½ inches, scored at 5¼ inch. I have 2 pieces of Very Vanilla cardstock. This one is 3½ by 4¾ That's for the inside of the card. This is a 2-inch by 3-inch scrap. So it doesn't have to get exact, but that is what we're going to use for our sentiment. Now we do need 2 more things for that sentiment, and that is a couple tailored tag punches. These are punched from some scraps of Mary Merlot. You're going to want 2 of those. The last thing we're going to need is some of this gorgeous early espresso faux suede ribbon. You know, this is a great one for the guys because, you know, it's suede, so it has a little bit more of that masculine feel. And you're going to want about 15 or 16 inches of that. Okay, guys, let's put this card together. When you look at your designer series paper, if there's a pattern, you want to pay attention to that, right? So I can see my trees are this way. If I put this side on the front, my trees are upside down. Don't do that. We want to put the adhesive on that side, and then you're going to adhere that onto that 4¼ by 5½ Mary Merlot. There we go. Next, you know what? Let's go ahead. I've got that ribbon right here. Let's go ahead and take that ribbon, and I'm just going to tie it in a knot here on the side. So I'm going to go right over left and under, give that a tug straight up and down, and then left over right and under. And when you pull, only pull what's in your left hand, and that's what's going to give you a really nice, pretty knot there in the center. Now, I've given you plenty so you can trim it down because, you know, there's nothing worse than not having enough ribbon when you're trying to tie a knot. Now, you can put this all the way over to the left side or the right side. I'm just going to give that a little scooch over there, just like that. All right, now let's come in with that scrap. And for our stamping today, we're just going to use one stamp set on all 4 cards. Best year. I love this one. I think it's perfect for masculine cards. Oh my goodness. You need this set when it comes to masculine cards. We've got Father's Day and a happy birthday and a thank you, because yes, we do need to say thank you to our men too. And Christmas, hip hip hooray, lots of great sentiments here. So for my first card, as I said, we're going to make a birthday card. So I'm going to take my Mary Merlot ink pad and I'm going to say, happy birthday to you on my scrap. And remember, that's that Very Vanilla. And we're going to say, wishing you your best year ever. Okay, it says best year yet. I'm sorry. There we go. I have got my tailored tag punch. Remember, this Very Vanilla here, this was just a scrap. We'll line that up in the punch, give that sentiment a punch. Now that's ready to go. I'm going to add some adhesive right here, and then I'm just going to layer that tailored tag punch right on top. And you know what's so nice and easy about this one is, do you see those edges, the flat edges? It makes it really, really easy. Now we'll take our other one, adhesive right here, and add that one, lining up the edges just like that. We're going to bring in Stampin' Dimensionals And because it's going to go over that ribbon, I want to kind of stick to my dimensionals sort of up here at the side. That ribbon's going to go right across the middle of that. So let's not let those dimensionals get too, okay, I'm probably going a little dimensional crazy. I apologize. That's probably more than what we needed. We'll peel off our backings. And as I said, we'll go right over that ribbon. You can go right to the edge if you want. I think that can look really pretty, or you can bring it in. So let's add that happy birthday and our inside sentiment there, and our birthday card is done. Let me bring this one in because I just wanted to show you. I just put it on the other side. So whichever way, if you've got a certain pattern that you feel like you want to show off more, feel free to move that around. There is card one. All right, next we're going to do a Christmas card. And I've got a piece of soft suede, 4¼ by 5½, and some more designer series paper. And just like before, the measurements, 4 inches by 10½ inches and scored at 5¼ This is from the Painted Christmas designer series paper. I'm going to go ahead and add this to the front of that soft suede. Just go ahead and get that step out of the way. I have a piece of evening evergreen cardstock. This is a 3¾ by 5 inches. So now we want to come in with our tailored tag punch, and we want to punch one of our little punch images from behind this cardstock. Now don't go in all the way. You can see we want to leave ourselves a little bit of room right there. I have 2 pieces of basic white, 3½ by 4¾ and again, just like before, a scrap about 2 by 3. So let's bring in our stamp for this one. We're going to say warm wishes for a happy Christmas and soft suede ink pad. And we're going to stamp our sentiment on our little scrap, and we're going to stamp it right there at the top. I'm a little crooked. Let's flip that over and try again. That looks better. All right, now we're going to add our warm winter wishes, the inside one. We're going to go right over where we punched. There's a reason for that. I want this area to be nice and flat when I write my message, and I can feel my punch right underneath it, but I'm not worried about it because we're not stamped, or we're not writing there. So let's add that. And now we can add this right here to the inside of the card. So that part's done. Now let's decorate the front. The other thing that you're going to need is some of the evening evergreen ribbon. And this is that chevron weave ribbon. So pretty in that evening evergreen. I have 8 inches of this ribbon. And let me show you what we're going to do. I'm just here on the inside, and it's going to wrap around the front. Now you notice it's not going to meet. That's fine. Don't worry. We're going to cover that up. I'm going to adhere that down with some tear tape. So I'm just going to lay that right across, and now we peel off that backing, and we can just press this in place. Now listen, if you don't have the tear and tape, you could just secure this with some Scotch tape. That would be fine. It's going to be hidden, but you're going to want to make sure you don't use too much. We don't want tape showing. So let's adhere that down. Did you see how forgiving that tear and tape is? I can just lift that. If I didn't get it quite straight enough, I can come in again. But here's the thing, that ribbon is secure. It's not going anywhere. Let's take our warm wishes for a happy Christmas, and we'll give that a punch. And this time I thought I'd show you something a little bit different with the tailored tag. I'm actually going to cut this one in half. So let's say you didn't have any scraps. You just didn't have any scraps that you could do 2 of those punches. We are going to put our adhesive there. And just like we did before, we'll add that one on one side. We'll add this one to the other side. And that allows me to just kind of stretch that tag out. Do you see? Doesn't that work great? Now let's add some dimensionals. And just like we did before, we want to kind of stick to the top because I don't want the dimensionals to try to stick to that ribbon. That doesn't always work well. You know what? Let's not go as crazy with the dimensionals like I did before. Now let's hide that horrible seam going on there. We can add that. And just to top it off, I've got just a little ribbon knot with that evening evergreen. And we're going to add that down at the bottom. And there we go. Fabulous little card. You notice how we got that backing there from the back of our layering piece. So we saved a little cardstock there. All right. If you missed any of the measurements for today's card, not a problem. Head over to simplysimplestamping.com. You'll find photos of all my cards. You'll find the measurements and a complete supply list of everything that I used on the cards today. Now, if you want super easy, just look down in the YouTube description. You're going to find a link. It'll take you directly to today's blog post. All right, let's create another card. My designer series paper for this card is from In Good Taste. Same measurements, 4 by 10.5, scored at 5.5. I loved this side. I thought it was so pretty. Then we're going to need 2 pieces of basic gray. One is 4.25 by 5.5. The next one is 3.75 by 5. Then we're going to need some basic white to go on top of that, 3.5 by 4.75. And then a piece of basic white for my sentiment, and that is 1.25 by 3.25. Here we go. You guys already know this part. This is where we're going to add this to the front of that basic gray. That's the quarter sheet. Then for the inside, in Smoky Slate, I went ahead and I stamped, and every thoughtful thing you do, let's adhere that to the smaller basic gray. And of course, we're going to add that to the inside. There we go. Now, to decorate the outside, I have stamped "Thank you for all you do" on that 3.25-inch piece. You notice it's all the way over on the left side because I'm going to teach you a fun little technique with your tailored tag punch. It's also a banner punch. Watch what happens. Can you see if I take just the edge of that punch? Do you notice how I just kind of have that centered up in there? And I'm just barely hitting the edges of that. And look at that. Boom, we have a little banner. Fabulous. And now I've got one more trick for you. So now that I have that adhered, I am going to place my punch. And what I want to do is I want to take a tiny little notch out of this. And I'm going to use the top of my cardstock as a guide. That's what's going to help me center this from side to side. And when I say I want a tiny little punch, I really mean just a little notch. Let's do that here on the other side. And you may be going, why? Well, let me tell you, I have got some gray granite ribbon, about 15, 16 inches. And we're going to tie this, and we're going to use those little notches. It kind of helps the ribbon to hold in place, and it gives it a little something extra. I think it's really nice. We're going to tie this again in a knot here on the side. The guys seem to be pretty cool with knots. Bows might be a little too frilly. So knots, I always seem to be safe on a man's card if I go with a knot. All right, we're going to trim this down, and I'm just going to slide that ribbon all the way off to the side, and I'm going to add my thank you, and I'm going to line that up with the edge of the designer series paper. Again, Stampin' Dimensionals here at the top and the bottom because the ribbon will go right down the middle. So I'm okay to add these just here at the top and the bottom. While I take the backings off, I have to tell you a funny story. So we just bought a house and moved, and my husband has kept every card I have ever sent him. And in the move, he lost the box that had all the cards. I have never seen a man so devastated in my life. Good news, we found it in the bottom of another box, but it did make my day that he does keep those wonderful cards that I give him. So you can see there's just another simple way to say thank you. We love to tell our guys thank you. There you can kind of see how fun those notches are on the side. And of course, we created that great tag. One last one, and this is kind of my really fun over the top one, but it's super easy. What man doesn't want to hear you say, hip, hip, hooray, you did it? You know what? Our guys need some encouragement. And I think this card is perfect. Let me share with you what you need. All right, this gorgeous designer series paper is from Simply Elegant. Can you see this shine on it? Beautiful. And I think it has a good masculine feel. It's done here in some basic gray as well. So I have a piece of basic gray for my background, 4.25 by 5.5. The inside is actually going to be Smoky Slate, and that is 3.75 by 5-inch. And the last thing you're going to need are some little gold strips. This is the gold foil. I love this stuff. And those are cut 1/4 of an inch by 4 1/4. Again, they are just strips and we will be cutting them down. So if you're off a little bit, don't stress over it. Okay, so I told you I have a fun technique for this card. So there's my designer series paper folded in half. I'm going to come in with my tailored tag punch, push it in as far as it will go. And yes, I have both sides. So we're going to punch that. Hopefully I can find a use for these on another card. And now we have a hole in our card, but that's not a problem. Let's add this right here to the front of our card. Here on the inside, we're going to cover up our hole with that smoky slate. Now I'll come in with a basic gray ink pad and we're going to say hip hip hooray. And that is just going to go right inside this tailored tag window. All right, now I'm going to open it up and I wanted to say a little bit more. How about you did it? So maybe if somebody's got a raise or a new job or, uh, just about anything you want to celebrate. Bonus at work, hey, that's always cool. Now, with those gold strips, we're going to add one here at the bottom of our designer series paper. This one, I honestly should have added this and trimmed it down. I do know that that piece was 3 3/4, so I know I'll just trim that down. My little oops for the day. Now here, I'm just simply going to add these right here on the side, and I can see right in between. Now just snip off the excess just like that. One more on the other side. It gives the illusion that we punched through it, but you know what? We don't like to do that. We don't like to waste. And honestly, this is so much faster. And there we go. Our last masculine card complete. Never let those masculine cards scare you again, because when you've got designer series paper, any kind of designer series paper, you can create some fabulous masculine cards. Of course, these can be changed into cards for your girlfriends too. You're just going to change it into maybe some floral designer series paper or something a little bit brighter, maybe something a little more subtle, just whatever you want. But these designs, all you need is that tailored tag punch and the best year stamp set. And just like that, you've got incredible cards. Thank you all so much. I hope you enjoyed today's masculine cards. If you did, I would love a thumbs up on YouTube. And if you haven't subscribed, I would love to have you as a subscriber here on my channel. Just click that great big red subscribe button so YouTube can let you know whenever I'm back with another video. Have a fabulous day, everybody. Stamp something wonderful, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.